Your love is the best part, love is the best part. Your love is the best part, love is the best part. Even if it all falls apart, your love is the best part, love is the best part.
So given all that you've been through and sort of the shift that's happened in your marriage, do you have new expectations for the next 20 years of your marriage, or a new focus, where you guys want to go?
I can say with complete honesty and joy that I have great expectations for the first time in my life. I do. I feel like I recognize the new man that Robert is, and that is an answer to prayer. It was something I prayed for many years, that Rob would become a man after God's heart.
Yeah.
And the Lord answered that prayer.
If I hadn't had an encounter with the Lord during this season, we'd be divorced for sure. Mm-hmm. There'd been no way.
If old Rob was
Oh
still,
yeah, I mean, it's been
he
such
wouldn't have been able to
a
weather
tough season, and to know that, because where my focus is different, because in my own disappointment, I of course would have taken it out on Amy and been like, "You're holding me back, woman," or who knows what, because that's the way I saw things. Mm-hmm. And now it's like my focus is on the Lord, and that spills over into our relationship. It gives me, a different perspective. It's really, it's developing the fruits of the Spirit, which is odd to say. It's like being slow to anger for me is like super hard. I grew up an angry guy, so even not reacting how I would normally react, and that's just, that's just a miracle in itself, honestly. I mean, self-control would be my worst fruit, and having any, having any self-control at all to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to let this get out of control. Right. Because typically what would happen is anything would go wrong, it would be just like a giant bomb would go off in the house. Mm-hmm. And now it's that those things have changed, and I know for me, my own expectation is that'll just continue to grow in that direction.
So tell me what you view your role as a wife to mean.
Let's make it personal. How I see my role as wife to Robert is definitely a supporter, to be in his court. Mm-hmm. It's very important for me to make sure he knows. I think it's important for him to know that I will back him up, that I believe in him, that whatever he chooses is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not what I want him to choose, I'm still going to be there to support him. I feel like that's really important, because the reality is we don't always have to agree. Mm-hmm. We just have to make sure we're there for each other.
And how does that play into respecting your husband? As like a...
Well, I think every marriage has their own dynamics. Just respecting him as a man, as the leader of the house. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like he's the head and I'm the submissive wife. Although, again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking real life here.
Yeah, have you not read that verse?
I'm talking real life. It's like if I don't respect him and put him in the role and demonstrate that respect towards him as the lead in our family, then you won't learn it. And I do believe it's important. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. Whether he's right or wrong, it's the role God has given him, and I see myself as the support to that role. And I think that shows respect.
Yeah. Which is super important to me, actually, even hearing it, because like for me growing up, I had no support at all. Yeah. Ever. I mean, if I said I wanted to do something, there was some reason why it couldn't be done. My parents just came right in and said, no, that's not going to, Or, all the way to things like my family's going on a vacation, I don't get to go because I look the way I look, and my parents aren't going to be embarrassed taking me on vacation. Wow. And just feeling like, wow,
Well, and that's interesting because it still comes out.
Totally.
Because I always pose questions for his things he wants to do, think, talk about, and my way is to pose questions which he immediately interprets as you're rejecting my idea, you're rejecting me. And it's just not true. I will point out my opinions on things, but overall, I always try to say, no matter what, I'm with you. I think showing Rob love is me making sure he knows, like I said before, that I'm not leaving. Mm-hmm. I'm going to continue to support him even through his mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it looks like.
And what about for you, Rob? How do you show Amy love?
Well, that's an interesting question.
He's here, isn't he?
It sounds funny, but
It's
believe
true.
me, for many years,
I've had to learn to find out. I've had to learn to believe, and I've had to learn to know how much he loves me without him being able to show it. Because like he's shared, it's hard. So I know it.
well, and that's, it's, I never really thought of it, to be honest with you. I always kind of felt like, well, I'm showing up. Doesn't all this speak for itself? So sometimes you ever just feel like you're such a Neanderthal. Sometimes I feel like I should just carry around a club. Woman, come with me. I mean, it's because I know for myself, I pride myself on being, a smart guy and conversational and, I'm friendly and I build relationships. But then at home, it's totally different. It's it's not the same as my outside relationships, which is really, I personally believe it's just a product of my upbringing. It's the way I was brought up, and it's learned behavior that you just carry on. And I don't know that it would have ever changed without an encounter with the Lord. Now, how do I show Amy love? Now I find it's funny, but even taking the trash cans down, you know what I mean? Because
Oh, I know.
sad to say, but I'm not a trash can taker and downer guy.
Neither is he, and I appreciate the trash being out.
You know what I'm saying?
I
just
told him for
not.
years, that's all you have to do. You don't understand.
That is so funny.
I don't like to
that
take
would
the,
be nice.
I don't like to.
Take the trash
what
out,
though?
be nice.
It
That's
was.
all I ask.
It was. I think it was a punishment when I was growing up. Pulling weeds. I don't do any yard work. Yard work is not even an option. Don't ask me. I don't want to do it because when I was a kid, that's what we did.
Right.
You want $5? Go out and pull every weed in the yard. And you'd walk out there and be like, "Oh Lord, this is like a vacant lot out here." Has no one ever pulled the weeds? $5 is not a lot of money. So for me, and it used to make Amy mad because in our old house we had all this yard, and the lawn would be like this big, and I'd have to do the lawn on a wheelie so that I could cut the grass down. But it was.
Or I would do it.
Or she would do it because I just did not. It was almost like a punishment. And
Robert-
taking out the trash.
He does. If there was an expectation on him, he immediately, without any concern, not a chance. And I don't care what it is, emotional, physical. I remember before we even got married, he said, "Don't put pressure on me." Because I must have started at that point having an expectation. I don't even remember, but he would flat out say, "Don't put pressure on me." And I knew right away. I'm like, "You can't handle any pressure of expectation because you're going to boot."
Right, because you put me in
still
any
has
kind of
that
chaos
tendency.
or pressure, I operate like a professional. I mean, it's I thrive in under a pressure environment. But if I put under any pressure in my own house, it's it changes the dynamic.
And the pressure might be, "Hey, I'd like you to take out the trash." I mean, this was back
Right.
then, but I think innately and unconsciously he'd be like, "Take it out yourself," just because
Yeah.
it's an expectation, and you're not going to put any pressure on me about who I need to be, what I need to do, where I'm going to go, or whatever. He had a rebellion.
So yeah, I mean, it's stuff really that simple, just taking the trash cans down. I mean, and it sounds so, honestly, it sounds ridiculous even saying it to me, right now, because it's after 24 years of marriage, taking the trash cans down.
You mean it was really that simple?
How you show love, you know what I'm saying? It's it just seems stupid,
But it's not, because what you're doing is
I've evolved from caveman. I'm walking now.
Right, you're walking, that's it. No,
I've got fire.
But what it is, it sounds simple and it's silly, but what it is, it meets my heart issue.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know that when you do something for me, it makes me feel happy. It makes me feel loved. because you know, it's just a, I don't know, what do you call it, acts of service kind of thing.
Yeah, but then the minute he does that, all of a sudden you're telling her, that's opening your heart to say, so you can hurt me because now you know I love you.
Right.
And that puts you in a vulnerable position.
Right. And I do get seriously annoyed when here I'm doing these things and there is no recognition
But
at all.
however-
And ridiculously, that's just, that again is a product of my, it's a product of my upbringing. It's my parents not coming to my football games. You know what I mean? It's the lack of that pat on the back from your parents growing up, which makes you feel like as soon as I don't feel included in something, and this is just a new revelation for me. Like somebody asked me, have you ever did you grow up in a way that you didn't feel included? Because of some of my offenses are those types of things where it's, and it had to be like this thing where I was like, wow, you know what? Yes, I never felt included in my own home. I mean, I didn't have a key to my parents' house. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I never felt included or appreciated or patted on the back. So when I do things and there's like zero acknowledgement of it, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, then
It's like when I have an encounter with the Lord and I become a Christian, I'm like, woman, what more do you expect of me? I've done everything you prayed for 20 years.
Well, and here's classic marriage, right? I'm very intentional in my perspective that I make sure I say, oh, thank you for taking the trash out when he does. I do. We will go to war on this right now. I am intent. That's one of the ways I show him love. I gotta make sure that I try to acknowledge when he does something.
Yeah.
Do I? I do. I might miss it if you stop it. You know I do. Anyway, whatever. Some things never change.
Yeah.
How would you describe your role as a husband? Like, what's your role?
Wow. Well, it's tough because there's, as a husband, there's so many ingrained things, just societal ingrained things that are, the provider and all of these things, which play a role whether you want them to or not. I mean, that's just a reality. And it's hard to shake those things. But I think that, for me, I think that part of being a husband is just being, aside from being the standard providers and all that, I think it's creating a safe environment for my family, for my wife. I would say a loved environment, which to me, I provide that. From her perspective, it might be totally something different. You know what I mean? But to me, I'm doing the best I can. You know what I mean? It's like, I think I'm in there dealing the great hand. Now, I might be dealing an offsuit 2/7. But at the end of the day, I think I'm doing it because, I'm trying to provide a loving environment for my family where they know they're loved and they're cared for and they're safe. All the other stuff for me, it's like, taking the trash out, even like now, it's like, okay, so I'm taking the trash out and taking the cans down. And it's like, I do that just for her because, if that's I don't know necessarily that that's my role as a husband, but it is in a sense because it's part of the role of creating that loving environment, saying that I love you without having to say, hey, I love you. Yeah. It's like being able to say, I love you through my actions. Yeah. So, that's kind of, it's just the simple stuff, really, Yeah. And for me, that's hard because I am seriously scatterbrained.
It's validating what's important to the other person. Like when you discover what even if they're little things that for some reason are important to you, even though they're not a big deal to me, it's taking the time to say, well, I'm going to validate that and I'll demonstrate to you by doing that for you.
Yeah.
I've discovered over the years the importance of, I feel it's extremely important to put your marriage first. If you don't protect your marriage, your relationship with your spouse, nothing else is going to work. And there are many things that come up, and parenting is one of them with children. Robert and I had a lot of issues and difficulty with that when we were younger. And kind of for the reasons I said before, but I didn't handle it well at first because it was out of fear. I was like, oh my gosh, you're damaging my kid here. You're damaging your kid. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? But
I would have said that she chose the kids over me back then for sure.
I wasn't. I was afraid of his abusiveness. I was trying to protect them and try to point out, if you just react this, there's stories behind everything. But
Right.
but so there was
You should
a
clarify
time
verbally.
yeah, verbally. There was a time when it clicked for me that when I would, I began to understand that I have to let certain things go with kid conflicts to protect this relationship.
That's good.
And if I don't do this, then none of it's going to work anyway. It's just I feel like it's a key thing, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that. It's like, you're wrong, and I'm going to make sure you all know it, you 5 little people here, because that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Right.
And that will create division like you've never seen. You have to, whether they're right or wrong, and I spent time telling my kids this growing up, I don't agree with that either, with Dad's response to that, but you will respect him, and we'll figure it out. And, things work out, but,
No, that's good.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
I think everything else we kind of covered in there. But I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we got
Is there
that.
anything you guys want? Anything else you feel like needs to be said?
Yeah, anything about your, as a closing, is there anything else about your guys' relationship or about marriage in general that just feels like, I want to make sure that I say this?
The main thing I would say to anybody is, I can only talk about myself. And there was many times that we were on the verge of divorcing. It's not easy. This is the hardest thing you'll ever do. I think that, there's 3 hard things in life. There's my relationship with the Lord and sticking that out, which is very challenging at times, and it's hard to stay the course.
Yeah.
My marriage, which is super hard, I mean, there's many times where you feel unappreciated, and it just takes that one person to snuggle up next to you and tell you how awesome you are.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're headed down a path you weren't ever planning on.
Right.
And you're parenting, those 3 things are the hardest things you're ever going to do. And those are the 3 things that you got to do well, because those 3 things will define you as a person. And it's like, it's like those are the things that you want to do well, and none of them are easy, but if you quit on any of them, they'll all fall apart. It's easy to quit. It's easy to walk away. If I would have left, 7, 8, 10 years ago, all I'm doing is taking the same stuff into a new relationship.
Right.
The odds are I'm going to marry someone else that's a lot like her, and I'm going to take the same issues in. It's going to take 7, 8 to 10 years before those issues really get crazy, because now I'm more mature, so I can hide them a little longer. And it ends up you're in the same thing, and you're just as unhappy as you were before, when you could have fixed what you had, and kept it all together and had a family. I mean, because when a marriage dissolves, it's not just a marriage. It's like, if our marriage was to dissolve, I mean, there's a lot of people that are involved in that. Friends that we've had for decades, our kids, our relationship through ministry, through church. Everybody gets divided and everybody gets pushed out, and it's something that, had you just sat back for a minute and thought about anything other than your own selfish needs, you can fix it.
Yeah.
But you gotta want to fix it. And I think the majority of people, it's easier to not fix it. And by the time they get to the place where they have to fix it, they don't want to fix it. It's like, you know what, I'm done. You're rude to me. And the sad part is people are rude to you all the time. I get flipped off on the freeway.
No.
Do I slam into him with a car?
That's
No.
joking.
But we want to do that in our marriage. Hey, you know what? You're not making me happy anymore, so you're out of here. And it's like, it's just, that would be my thing. Is that it's a process. It's work.
Yeah. It's a
Nothing worth
lifelong
having is
journey for a
easy.
reason, and there's value and reward for persevering.
Yeah.
You don't get to have the things you want it to look like until you've been there a long time. It's not instant. You grow together, you walk life together, and you sharpen each other, and you dull each other when you need to be dulled, and you grow, and it gets better and better and better the longer you stick it out.
Oh,
There is
that's
value in it.
And the beautiful part is that you both got everything you ever wanted by sticking it out. Everything you wanted as a kid.
Our marriage is way better now
so awesome.
than it ever was
And
before.
I will say this, you don't realize it, but the Word of God and all those things that God places on, that directs us in life, you take that and live it in your marriage, and there's abundant life right there.
Yeah.
If you can't do it in your marriage, you're only faking it everywhere else.
Right.
That's so good.
That's very good.
You have to, the fruit of the Spirit, all the things that the Lord teaches us. The best place to find it displayed and to work through it and figure it out is in marriage.
Yeah.